What up, gang? We're just talking about Twilight of the Warriors. Me and Gaz are still, we've been trying to get a stream of that, obviously, since they took it out of theaters. What up, Red Cloud? Yeah, we're running on PXF time, man. It's kind of what we do here. Little bit of PXF news and channel news. Camera X, you're going to want to go ahead and follow the horror film on social media. It's Camera X Movie on IG. You can also follow their writer-director, Lauren Lepre. We're looking for 2 to 3 tracks of upbeat music from soft rock, reggae, anything of that nature. It's upbeat scenes from the film. It's also going to be a hyper-violent grindhouse film. So if the said light music band is not going to be into that, notify them as well. Of course, there is the UFC card going on right now, guys. We'll have to check in with Pixie. I really don't. I think there's 3 fights left. I really didn't care too much about this one, but should the fight still be going by the time we log off, I might try to catch the main event, but not really. First and foremost in anything we're doing here, I'm guessing you guys are wanting some Zodiac content, so I'm in the process of booking the next 2 Zodiac Files interviews for the 5th and either the 11th for the Presidio Heights anniversary. Rest in peace to Paul Stein. It would be one of those days, either Friday or Saturday, and I'll announce that guest soon. She's been on the channel before, kind of obvious who she is, but I will hold off on the announcement, and then I'll be announcing it's going to be a double interview for the 5th. I'll be announcing that Tuesday. And then Gaz and I are going to have our PXF Classics horror series for October. So we'll be pulling in some of the recos that you guys dropped for us, as well as some of our PXF Classics. All over the place, really, from sci-fi horror, slapstick, pulling out a PXF Classic out of Gaz's list. Should we just go ahead and tell them what we're going to start off with, Gaz, on the 5th?
Yeah, let's go for it, man.
So The Thing. We haven't talked much about John Carpenter, The Thing. If you bring up Richard Hoffman again one more time, Red Cloud, I'm going to lose it on you. I hope you're just antagonizing me. You guys know how I am about these nonsense suspects. Anyway, The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing is going down. We're going to review it. We're going to be getting a bunch of new John Carpenter stuff on the channel, new, old, whatever you want to call it, new to our channel, old films, over the next 2 months. Including They Live, which we'll be covering in November. But The Thing, we're going to talk exclusively about The Thing, live action epic, horror sci-fi, based on The Thing from outer space from the 50s. You guys are here. It's a Grindhouse channel. Oh God, he's still going. He's still going. You guys are obviously here. So I know. You guys are obviously here, so you know what we cover, the Grindhouse type stuff. One thing I want to highlight, I'll try to find the link and put it in the description, is The Thing Expanded. This is all good, Mark. This is a in-depth. So you guys have probably seen these on social media. I think they did Aliens Expanded. I think they did quite a few more, guys. Typical PXF fashion. I forgot what all the other ones are, but they basically do these sci-fi movie. If I'm not mistaken, the Aliens Expanded had a Sigourney Weaver interview in it. So the big deal is they'll take one of your classic 80s, 90s sci-fi movies. They kind of make these epic, in-depth, behind-the-scenes documentary interviews with the cast, interviews with the crew. I don't know that much about The Thing Expanded, but I do know that they have a John Carpenter interview in there, and they do have a drop from him like, hey, this is John Carpenter, look, check me out in The Thing Expanded. So the fact that they got the director in there is pretty impressive. It's my understanding that this is just some random company, just some guy who's really into these movies. But yeah, I'm a crowdfunder on The Thing Expanded, so we'll definitely be getting the link for you. I think the crowdfund just ended maybe a couple days ago or something like that. But anyway, it doesn't, crowdfunding it or whatever doesn't affect whether or not you can stream it digitally or get a copy. So if you want to watch it, it will still be available online digitally, and then I'm pretty sure they'll have some sort of hard copies. So that's The Thing Expanded. Hopefully if they send me my link and I'm able to watch it in time, Gaz and I will probably talk a little bit about that. Obviously the movie review will just mostly be about standard PXF classic review, what me and Gaz's thoughts on The Thing. We thought that was a good way to pop off October, even though the thing is, make the argument sci-fi, but I would say sci-fi horror, guys. I mean, I'd say it has enough horror elements to the grindhouse, the gore, the violence. I mean, it's all there. So and even the pacing and the kind of I don't know what you would call that, like the anticipation of the jump scares or whatever. It's kind of all there in the thing. So pumped for that. So we'll get that posted soon, just so you guys know what's coming up. The only other film update I have is there's a movie coming out October 10th called The Apprentice. They supposedly roast Donald Trump pretty bad. It's kind of like a Donald Trump biopic, kind of like W, when I think that was Josh Brolin or whoever played George Bush. Similar type of thing. Very controversial. Apparently Trump sued to block the release of this movie. So they've gone to crowdfunding. And I think the crowdfund for that may have ended today or yesterday, but I'll get the link up either. It's on Kickstarter. So I did crowdfund that, you know what I mean, which is absolutely hilarious. You'll see my name in the credits. And Donald is supposedly super mad about this movie, which I find absolutely hilarious. So it's supposed to drop October 10th. If Gaz wants to, we can get the review. The trailer is up, so I'll share it out on X. But yeah, that's pretty much. I know that's a little bit out of the realm of what me and Gaz usually do, but I found it relevant in the current time zone. It's the guy who plays him is supposed to be talented. Then another actor playing Roy Cohn is a dude from Succession. I've never seen Succession, but it's got a lot of hype around it. It's supposedly this big, it's based on the Murdoch family. Guys, you've heard of that show. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Never caught it myself yet. There's another controversial documentary dropped at the moment. Vince McMahon actually apparently tried to get pulled as well, Mr. McMahon, which is on Netflix.
Netflix.
Not something I'm particularly interested in myself, even though I'm a wrestling fan, well, outside of WWE anyway. Sure. Yeah, that's one maybe people could be interested in, possibly.
Yeah, I'm interested. I want to see that. There's a lot of hype around that, as Gaz was saying. Like Vince or not, or like WWE or not, it's that kind of wrestling documentary, and it does have a lot of hype around it. I thought there was one other thing I was supposed to bring up too, but maybe it will come back to me.
We do have a very PXF special classic in November, and I'm going to really behave myself and not reveal it at all, but it is something myself, Ross, Mac, if he can join us on that one. I've talked about this movie for as long as we've known each other, for a long time, and it is probably the classic of classics on the PXF list. So that is something that we are all very, very stoked to talk with you about, but I'm going to keep it hush for now.
Yeah, I think I said actually what it was earlier when I was doing my intro. But it's okay. If you guys happen to miss my rant, then we're just going to keep it a secret now, as per PXF. Usual. And again, there's other stuff that Gaz and I are trying to get in the mix, such as Twilight of the Warriors, Killer's Game, and things of that nature. We're just going to work those in when they fit. So without further ado, the film that brings us here today is Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, 36-year late sequel. Of course, you were with us last week when we covered 1988, Beetlejuice 1, the OG. I'm a big fan of the character, big fan of the first movie. Gaz, not so much, as you guys heard when we covered it. I'm just going to do the IMDb synopsis. After a family tragedy, three generations of the Deetz family return home to Winter River. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life is turned upside down when her teenage daughter, Astrid, accidentally opens the portal to the afterlife. Just a little background. Of course, like Catherine O'Hara returns as Lydia's mom, who is Delia Deetz, and then Justin Theroux. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I thought Justin Theroux was absolutely hilarious as like the middle-aged, like woke, you know what I mean, just like conman kind of dude. Like of any, maybe second after Keaton's performance, I would say maybe him, just because like. I'm in Southern California. There's a lot of people like that, right? So, like, he nailed that trope of that obnoxious dude, obnoxious character, but killed. I felt he was kind of like the spiritual sequel to Otto, who Otto was like obnoxious in the first one. You know what I mean? Let's see, Monica Bellucci. I think that was Beetlejuice's ex-wife, right? Jenna Ortega. You know, the internet makes a big deal about her. I've personally never seen Wednesday. I guess that was like a big show on Netflix or whatever, which kind of, she's like the daughter of the Addams family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Willem Dafoe, which I thought he was cameo wise. I thought him and DeVito, spoiler alert, Dafoe and DeVito in the movie were the two best cameos. So I could have used more of them in my mix, to be honest. But we can kind of just go into initial thoughts and then just get into plot stuff if you care to. You want to start us off on
right. Sorry, I thought you were going to take us in there. My bad. So
nope, all good.
So I'll do what I did last week, folks. I'll try and do my rating. I'll talk at it from like a business point and my personal kind of view at the side. So the positive, it does link in with the first movie very well. It's shot well. The cinematography is good. It has a fairly solid opening.
Music, Elfman back.
The soundtrack is there again, not my particular taste, but for those that appreciate it. And I feel it does tie in with the first movie. You see Lydia Deetz, Winona Ryder, what she's doing, quite kind of like an amusing spin on those talk shows as well. For those that haven't seen the movie, it reminded me of a movie called Late Night with the Devil, which that movie starts well and then sadly goes to crud, but that movie also has like a funny spin on those late night talk shows, which they do in Beetlejuice 2. So that I thought was good. And it kind of sets the scene for what's going on with the characters, what they're doing now since the first movie. What did you think of that opening?
I like the opening a lot. Honestly, one of the strong points, as Gaz would say, very traditional kind of 80s, 90s style basic text on the screen going down the streets of the, suburban New England towns, which is, where I grew up, as Gaz knows, not far from here. So I'm always, happy to see anything like New England based or shot out there, because there's not too many, movie, even Boston, there's not that many of them. But this is obviously like Vermont, Connecticut, I'm not that far away. And as we've said, Joker 2 also drops next week. So when we're covering The Thing, we'll probably do Joker the week after, just because pretty much none of you guys watch opening weekend when me and Gaz watch it. So there's probably no point, but in an event that you do. So I like the way it starts out, Gaz. Danny Elfman, soundtrack kind of going down the streets of the suburban street. Like the way it starts, very good. After that, I think we'd probably both have the same criticism, which the pace slows down rapidly in Act 1 and 2, pretty much until Beetlejuice is introduced, and it just doesn't have the charisma of Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis, because you're kind of a little bit more, at least I was when I was 5 years old, invested in those characters in the first one. At least I felt it kept it moving, where it's like, hey, point A, point B, blah, blah, blah. Beetlejuice puts out the ad. He targets the couple that just blah, blah, blah. You can kind of see where it's going. In this one, just a more unfocused writing, I would say, plot-wise. I think Gaz would agree with me. And obviously I have positives about this movie. Again, kind of similar to the same movie. I think the Beetlejuice sequences and the afterlife sequences are the best part. I think it is you. I mean, Winona Ryder is a little bit more so Ryder performance in this versus one. Like, yeah. I like Winona Ryder's acting as an actress. Like she's okay in Stranger Things. I think she's really good in A Scanner Darkly. If there's one thing that really shows her acting, I would say A Scanner Darkly, one of my PXF classics. If you guys ever want me to do the Phil K. Dick series or the rest of the Phil K. Dick movies, me and Gaz could do A Scanner Darkly, which kind of has a legendary ensemble cast: Robert Downey Jr., Woody Harrelson, Winona Ryder, Keanu Reeves. But I felt her performance was flat in this, Gaz, with her just making that like confused look, like this is how I used to play Lydia when she was 15 years old, and just kind of like the way she delivered those lines, I just found like super awkward. And it was like they filmed this movie in 2 weeks, and I was where they made such a big deal about bringing back Michael Keaton, bringing back Tim Burton, bringing back Winona Ryder. I expected more from her. I'm not going to lie, because I do think in the game, she's one of the better actresses overall, It didn't really show in this film, I felt.
Yeah, well, I'm probably not with you on that. I don't rate Winona Ryder personally. She was insufferable in the original, as I said last week. She's insufferable in this.
She was also like a young teenager, so you'd expect acting experience to rise with.
Yeah, but it's I still don't rate her, bro.
It's the same flat performance, right?
Yeah, I didn't think she was that great in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Terrible in Alien Resurrection. Is decent.
Oh God, I forgot she was in that.
Yeah, decent in Scanner Darkly, though. That is an awesome movie. I will agree with you on there. She was just not the worst, just bland.
Just average, given that this is okay, you had all these, I won't go into her personal life, that's not what me and Gaz do here, but you had all these legal issues that we all know about because you're a public figure. This is kind of your iconic role that put you on. You probably got a Scanner Darkly and Alien Resurrection, all this crap because you were Lydia Deetz in Beetlejuice. And then you kind of get this redemption where, hey, you're going to be playing this character again. And I don't know, I like the angle that they poked fun at the television, the whole paranormal television thing, the trope, the gimmick. No, it's all good, Mark. You're good. So I agree with Gaz there, but there's also a lot of weird forced plot elements in this movie, and that's one of them. In addition to that, I also think they just spent way too much time focusing on Lydia and her daughter, the Deetz family. And I'll just go straight into that's what causes the slowdowns, right? Because they waste all that. Now, don't get me wrong. Justin Theroux is absolutely hilarious. He's kind of her swindler, kind of con man husband. His character's name is Rory. And Justin Theroux is in other stuff that I think he did well in too. But I think the podcast is out, Red Cloud. I'm pretty sure Gaz posted the link on his channel, if I'm not mistaken. The thing about it is when they waste all that time on Charles Deetz, now I'll start with what they did good. So the animated sequence of him going over to the island where he was doing the rare exotic bird watching, that whole thing was cool. And most people I've talked to was that animated sequence was sick. They should have used more of those. The problem was making that such a central thing to the plot. And I'm going to give a spoiler, guys. Again, we're not going to go too much into this unless you guys request us to, but that actor got into some hot water behind the scenes and kind of lost favor with Hollywood. I don't prefer to talk about things that topic on this channel, but you can Google it and see what I'm referring to. Therefore, that results in him not getting signed to Beetlejuice 2. So therefore, they have to come up with this workaround about Charles Deetz dying early on in the film, an animated sequence. He gets his head bit off by a shark. Spoiler alert. Where are you at? You're down in South Carolina, and you guys have got hit by the hurricane. That sucks, Pixie. Well, I don't know if you're able to pull up a boot of the UFC card on your phone, what's going on, but we're doing Beetlejuice, and just jump in wherever you see fit. I'm sure. Yeah. So he just answered you, Red Cloud. He said it's coming soon. You got to keep up with the chat there, bud. So they waste all of Act 1 talking about Charles Deetz getting eaten by this shark and then his funeral. And then obviously he goes to the afterlife, so it's kind of just following his character around. I thought all of that was wasted time, guys, because they could have just wrapped that up in 5 minutes. They could have just did a paragraph. Charles Deetz goes exotic bird watching, his plane crashes, and he gets eaten by a shark. You know what I mean? That's all we needed to know about that. Yet they had that headless character bumble around through the entire movie in the afterlife. I just thought it was kind of unfocused.
Because it was a bit forced. They could have done anything, which is going to sound cliche. For example, in a house, there's a picture of the family with Charles on there. Oh, sadly, this is what happened to him. 2-minute scene, and then you see the cameo of him later. Could have been done in that way. And I felt, as you said, it was literally stretched. And that's what prolonged it. And the other problem with this movie, I mean, if anyone saw the review last week, I'm not going to be a fan of this one, and I'm not. We both grew up with the.
I kind of agree with Gaz. Yeah. Gaz is harsher on it than me, but I thought Beetlejuice 1 was still better than Beetlejuice 2, regardless in any capacity, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we both grew up with Beetlejuice, but I'm one of the few that didn't like it. I guess it's just a strange kid. Anyway, that aside, the problem as well with this movie, I do feel that Willem Dafoe, his cameo, again, Michael Keaton, Beetlejuice, Justin Theroux as Rory, and even the cameo by Danny DeVito outshines everyone else in the entire movie.
100%.
Absolutely outshines 100%. It. I know it's good. I mean, Willem Dafoe's, I think, is great in this. It really is.
Could have used more of him. He kind of is he only has maybe 3 or 4 scenes.
I feel he wasn't utilized. I felt I had the same problem with Michael Keaton again, not utilized so much. This is supposed to be a movie, about him, so I thought we were going to see more of that. And that's
intentional, but I agree.
Yeah, and I felt there was something a bit lacking when I come out of there. And, we're always not going to agree or like the same thing. So I have to be objective and think, well, what is good about this film, even though I'm not a fan? And I come out of there and I was saying, buddy, I just feel there's something a bit lacking. They didn't utilize the main character again. They didn't utilize those good cameos. And I feel that pulled the film down. And especially when you've got that forced plot element just to stretch it out, made it a little more painful.
Slowed the pace down too much. Now, it really doesn't pick up until they not having Beetlejuice is intentional. That was like a Keaton Burton idea. They basically said, hey, he only gets 17 minutes screen time in the first one. Keaton basically said we shouldn't overuse Beetlejuice. We should only give him another extra minute. I totally disagree with that assessment. As Gaz was saying, I think at this point now, we'll come to the Beetlejuice stuff, and when they introduce him and all that, I thought Keaton's performance, again, the highlight of the film. Dialogue hilarious, his jokes absolutely hilarious. They did bleep out his F-bomb in the third act, which I saw that in the trailer, and I was like, okay, well, they're only doing that because it's TV, it's YouTube. They're not going to have, it's not a Red Band trailer, right? It's not Hobo with a shotgun. They're not going to have him dropping the F-bomb. Kind of pissed me off that they bleeped it out. Like I said before, if you need him to drop the one F-bomb, then you just make it a PG-13 movie. So you literally let him say it in the first one in a PG movie. So to pare that back, didn't make any sense to me. Whatever, I can get past that. As Gaz said, Defoe's performance probably second best after Keaton's. Would have liked more of him. He really steals the show in his cameo scenes. He's essentially, we'll give him a little background. He's an actor who, shows up in the afterlife, and then his Wolf Jackson, and then his job in the afterlife is essentially running the afterlife police force and kind of doing what they do, hunting down, whatever crimes, or, Beetlejuice is a renegade and things of that nature. So his scenes are, his dialogue is funny too. Dude is, just like self-absorbed actor, like Hollywood trope. And then like his assistant kind of like kisses his ass, and, it's, he's like, he's like, I want everything to be real. I did my own stunts because it's real. And then he turns his face. He like has half his face blown off from the explosive of the pyrotechnic grenade. And Beetlejuice is like, looks like you got a little too real for your own good there, bud. like you're doing your own stunts and you died on set. So just great interactions, but some of the best moments in the film are like interactions between Beetlejuice and Wolf Jackson, Beetlejuice ripping Rory, things of that nature. What up, Jerome? It's my guy. Check me out on the French Wrecking Crew panels. I'll be back over there soon. Once that crappy Zodiac drops on Netflix, I'll come back with you. I don't know if you made it to the theater yet, Jerome, and you saw Beetlejuice, but that's what we're covering. So a lot of it centers on like Jenna Ortega, who is Lydia Deetz's daughter, and it kind of making that kind of similar story of how it was with Lydia in the first movie. And I also thought that was like kind of repetitive, guys, because we've already seen that story before, right? Yeah. So kind of already. So she's Astrid Deetz. So she comes out of private school. She finds out her grandfather Charles has passed away. What up, Slipknot? Just watch out for the spoilers, dude. We're doing Beetlejuice too. So again, all that stuff lasts up to the funeral. Really not much happens until they all get there, and then Rory proposes to Lydia. It's kind of like in bad taste. He announces their wedding like at her like father's funeral, which is like, anyway, you guys all get the gag there. And then Beetlejuice has some turmoil as well. I'd say probably the best aspect of this film, guys, as we said, besides the afterlife sequences, are Beetlejuice announces his ex-wife returns. She's kind of back for him to revenge. So at one point, Beetlejuice gives a prologue monologue. He says it in Spanish, and it does that black and white sequence of finally showing Beetlejuice of when he was alive. You finally get some of his backstory. What era is he from? How old is he? It finally, and this is what I was telling you last episode, like, hey, we want the Beetlejuice. Now, usually, like, you know, what do they call those? Like the Marvel, origin stories, can be very, cliche and trash. But like Gaz and I were saying, this is the one time it applies because we don't know Beetlejuice's origin, and he's really not in the first two movies for more than 20 minutes. So what you want is the solo origin. You know, in the case of a Beetlejuice character, you want the origin story, right? So they don't give it to you full, but what up? But they give it to you a little bit. So he gives this Spanish monologue. He also has the whole office of the Bobs. And I thought they could have did more with Bob too, Gaz, with how much they showed him in the trailer. You know, I thought he was going to be like a little bit more central, but the way he's used is they kind of just brought him back for no reason. And there's this clone army of Bobs. There's some funny sequences with them, but as far as it's kind of random, you know what I mean? But so as far as Beetlejuice's origin, so he's a grave robber from the plague era. And he has this, Italian or French wife, whatever you want to call her. She's kind of this occultist. It's played by Monica Bellucci, who's Dolores. She's from The Matrix Reloaded, I believe, guys. She was the French actress in The Matrix Reloaded. She's not terrible, but also for like an antithesis villain, I also thought she's not doubled down on and focused. She just kind of has these random cameos of her going around soul sucking these characters. They don't really build up the menace that how powerful she is, or that she's one of the most vicious characters that could really, kind of play if Beetlejuice is indifferent or an anti-hero or neutral or whatever he is, she doesn't really have that like yin and yang juxtaposition to Beetlejuice. Like she should really double down on the evil, especially where they give her origin that she was an occultist. And the night that he met her, the night they got married, it was more of a witchcraft ritual that she was sacrificing his soul. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing because when she's first introduced into that you think, right, she's going to be very imposing, very sinister, but for that reason, she's from that time. And then it's just, again, it's reduced to a sequence of random cameos, kind of like cutscenes in any game, really.
Random cameos. And it's like the way, as Gaz said, the way they introduce her, it's kind of like, oh, yo, Dolores is going to be a badass. She's finally, there's really no villain in Beetlejuice 1 other than Beetlejuice himself. So, you're like, oh, wow, how does Beetlejuice stack up against this kind of, occult, witchcraft, sentient or, villain, villainous. And, but I mean, the fact, like, I thought that, so he does those couple like Spanish monologues. Those were sick. Of course, Beetlejuice sings a couple random songs throughout the film. Like that cake song towards the end with the wedding cake. I have no idea what that song was. Like, I've never heard of that song, but they kind of just pulled out these random songs.
Do you want to hear that song again? Because I don't.
Well, okay, those songs versus Deo, though, which is worse. Like, Deo is terrible, but everybody knows it. So when you pull out those random songs, no one knows, especially like that's the thing.
That's a question I'm going to defer to Ross because I'm not a fan of either. So Ross can answer this. I would say it's equally as bad. That's me.
I don't rate it. I rate the first one higher. So if you look at the ratings, I think 2 has a slightly lower rating than 1 on IMDb. So it looks like it's dropped to like a 7. That's about as high as I could give it. And that's purely for the reasons which Gaz said. Keaton, Defoe, DeVito. DeVito has arguably the best cameo in the film, and it's a very short scene. Would you even say 5 minutes, Gaz? He plays the janitor in the afterlife. Spoiler, it did show him in the trailer. I could have used DeVito. Maybe that was for random reasons of, DeVito is such a big star, so he kind of takes a lower cameo role. He doesn't want to like overshadow other people in the film, which I can understand. But the dude is hilarious as the janitor. I mean, even Dolores, I mean, she's, face value. She's a pretty famous actor, as Gaz said, but again, the villain is underutilized in its own film. She really doesn't show up till the end after all these random cameos. She's walking around the afterlife looking for Beetlejuice. They kind of waste a lot of time on that, just how they waste so much time on the Charles Deetz story arc throughout the whole beginning of the movie with the funeral sequence. But anyway, so Lydia's daughter Astrid moves to the town, and she crashes her bike. She runs into this other kid who is named, it's like another teenager kid. Were you able to predict what happened with that kid, Gaz? I think Jeremy, Arthur Conti played Jeremy. I got a bad feeling about him, but I didn't know right away that that's how it would pan out. But I thought it was questionable, you know. I don't know if I predicted it.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same as you on that.
You thought something was up, but you didn't know exactly what. Yeah, that's kind of where I was at with it.
To put it there, to have that I think for the audience, so you were kind of thinking there's something slightly off here.
Yeah, because, and I'll tell you what tipped me off when it didn't show the parents' faces. Like, she walked in and they were watching TV. So I was like, you know what I mean? They would have showed him if you knew what was up. So he invites her over on Halloween. Let me just see what's going on. I watched the first Beetlejuice, but I have no real interest in the sequel. Like, it's not terrible. Like, if you like the character, it's worth the watch. You know, I don't think I'd watch it more than probably a couple times. I mean, this was 36 years later. So although Beetlejuice 2 was originally supposed to be Beetlejuice in Hawaii, which could have just been complete, but so there's that. Yep. A little bit of Deo. So she meets up with Jeremy. Jeremy invites her over for a date on Halloween. She asks her mom, Lydia, if that's okay. So she goes over there. Ultimately, whatever her name is, who the real estate agent, the annoying girl from the first one, is still in it and has her daughter or whatever. So she tips her off like, hey, it couldn't have been that house. That house had a kid that like killed his parents in the 70s. Ultimately, you find out Jeremy is a ghost. Now, I'll tell you what did tip me off, though, when he had the handbook for the recently deceased. And he's like, hey, you know, you need to read this incantation. And she was pressing her mom the whole movie about the, like, hey, mom, like, you're exploiting the paranormal thing. You say you can blah, blah, blah. So she's super analytical and meticulous with her mom. But when it comes to a random guy she just met, oh, sure, I'll read that incantation, having no idea what it's going to do, not asking any of the, like, super gullible, super inconsistent with her character. Like, hey, you're going to apply that standard of nitpicking with your mom, but not apply it to anyone else. Like, that makes zero sense. So you go into the afterlife portal with a guy you just met, and then obviously when he gets his passport stamped, he's swindling her. So I just thought that was super. Like, they could at the very least had her arguing that back and forth with him, you know. But he's like, oh, it's a cute guy, and I'm Jenna Ortega. I'm just going to listen to anything this guy says, and I've met him twice. It was like a little bit like brain dead, you know what I mean? I was like, hey, I know it's a PG, you know, romance movie between teens, but we need a little bit of conflict in the dialogue, right? You know what I mean? Like, that was it's like,
which didn't really, it just didn't give a solid layer, did it, to the film, really piece it together. That's one of the other flaws. I think that is quite noticeable. Got tongue tied there.
Agreed. Yeah. So basically that leads her into there. Lydia has ultimately finds that she has like no choice other than to summon Beetlejuice once again. He's a bit more helpful in this movie than he was in the first one, but that's also because the only way he can get rid of Dolores is by getting married again. So he writes up the contract to marry Lydia. She obviously has her wedding with Rory booked. So Beetlejuice leads her into the afterlife to kind of go try help find Astrid. This is where we're going to interject Astrid's father's storyline, which I thought was totally useless, even more so useless than the Charles storyline, because she doesn't know her dad. He was some like eco environmentalist activist that went to Brazil and got killed by piranhas. So he's down there in afterlife working in the passport stamping. I thought it was a totally useless character. I thought there was really no reason for the story arc in the movie. They could have just given it's a character that we don't know, that's not established in the first film. She grows up not knowing him, but we're introduced to him in the afterlife for like 10 minutes of him trying to help them. I mean, I can get him trying to, you know, help Lydia rescue her and stuff. That makes sense. But them again, this is like right in the middle of the movie, like second half of Act 2, and we're still like wasting time with like, you know, what is going on. Meanwhile, the whole time, you know, Wolf Jackson has the afterlife police after Beetlejuice. Dolores is just walking around randomly looking for Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice dresses up one of the Bobs in his striped suit as a decoy, hoping that but the way he throws Bob under the bus is crazy, guys, because after she soul sucks the janitor, then she gets that Bob in the what do you call it? Interrogation room. She soul sucks him. Bob can't talk because he's a shrunken voodoo head with his lips stitched, but she sucks the stitches off his lips when she sucks him, and he still can't talk. Like, that was his chance to say, like, I don't know where Beetlejuice is, or they should. And then Beetlejuice does nothing to avenge Bob. That pissed me off, bro. Like, the fact that he has all the Bobs working in his office and no one avenges him, really. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, I was expecting, like, hey, someone's gonna fight back for Bob, right? They made such a big deal of putting him in the trailer. At one point, the veil between, or actually, they blow open that hole into the office with Beetlejuice uses the chalkboard explosive, and then all the Bobs just bounce out into the real world.
Yeah, that was amazing.
They chase Rory out the door. Rory was hilarious when he's like screaming, running away from him and stuff. Yeah. So there was some funny chaos with the Bobs there. See what you guys are up to. You're just on some metal. So there's that. And then it's just kind of inconsistent. Of course, there's like the Soul Train. I know the big woke argument was people thought like the Soul Train was a bad idea. Honestly, from a woke or anti-woke perspective, I had no problem with the Soul Train. It's just a bunch of people dressed in 70s garb, dancing 70s style with a disco ball. I didn't find anything racist or offensive about it.
There's no this is ridiculous. There was nothing like that. My problem is with it just sucked. It was cringe.
Guys just hated the content. It was flat useless. Exactly. But as far as offensive or racist, not the case.
It wasn't at all. It was just this typical horrendous. I'm not saying the guy can't create good art or other worlds in film and everything, but it was just this really weird arty-farty gothy kind of cosplay. Okay, to put the soul vibe 70s on
sequence,
people doing like this dance sequence you see a couple times, and I thought, man, this is just cringe, and it just made me think, thank God I don't have to go back to this movie once I've watched it.
Again, I don't think Gaz's problem was excuse me, it was offensive or anything of that nature. It's just he just thought it was useless and didn't really I mean, a lot of it is, I think, Gaz is the writers of, because you have these 3 random writers that aren't the writers of the original. So they kind of put these random ideas in there, like, hey, act 1 on the Charles Deetz headless body, act 2 on her dad, her random dad character, who we don't even know this guy, and then like the random things like the Soul Train. There's just a little bit too much randomness. But as far as like Beetlejuice, the Keaton performance, jokes are hilarious, dialogue hilarious, classic Burton, classic Keaton, classic Beetlejuice. Probably the best part. As Gaz said, second best, Dafoe, which, they made a big deal of putting Willem Dafoe on the poster, like, oh, he's Wolf Jackson, da-da-da-da. The fact that they promoted it that much made me think, like, it was going to be, like, a lot more Beetlejuice and Wolf back and forth. And I think those are some of the best sequences in the movie, but we could have used more. So I'm pretty much right in line where Gaz was at. I mean, I think the biggest problem is what we were saying about, what was that last movie that we were talking about that just had, the Crow 2020 Boar. Absolutely abhorrent pacing. Now, even though this is like a PG comedy, dark comedy movie, same thing. Like, just because it's a comedy, that doesn't mean you drag out the first 2 acts with basically nothing happening plot-wise, because you still have Beetlejuice. He's still a bioexorcist. He can still travel back and forth between worlds. At the very least, you can show more of what Beetlejuice is doing in the afterlife. Once he, the story arc here is once Dolores is on his trail, he needs to throw her off and avoid her and stuff. But he's obviously up to other things. So that's kind of like what I got the Blue Angels flying by. Hold on, guys.
Yeah, just to go with what Ross was saying, they could have done that and even expanded a little on showing you the background to the sandworms as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, so you do get some sandworm action. I think you're introduced to them early on. We were talking about this last show. Astrid identifies that kind of purgatory world, the desert world of the sandworms, is actually a moon of, was it Saturn or Jupiter? I forget now. I thought it was like Europa, but it's one of the moons of one of the planets. I think it was either Saturn or Jupiter, which is like a random celestial theme in Beetlejuice. Like I was saying, much when he calls himself Beetlegeist because his name can't repeat it. That's also a star. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Van Wilder guy, but I do think Deadpool is hilarious. So yeah, you have kind of the random space themes, which is always cool. And then it basically amounts to the big climax is Beetlejuice coming back to have the wedding ceremony. That's where they have the big song. He does another possession where he possesses everybody in the room, has them dancing around the cake. And again, Gaz and I were just saying we have no idea what song that is, but it's a semi-funny sequence compared to the Deo sequence. It's also, I'd say, a longer sequence, Gaz, so they could have wrapped that one up. And then also when Wolf Jackson shows up, Beetlejuice freezes him. So he's kind of, you know what I mean? He doesn't really have any impact on the scene. Like he shows up with the afterlife police, then he just gets frozen and do a suspect review on the Zodiac. So you realize
I've done a lot on that.
You realize
I'm not even a true crime guy, and even I know that.
You realize that there's hundreds of suspects. So do you want me to just jump in on all 3,000 of them, or do you want me to focus in on ones that are reasonable? And also, when I do the interviews, I usually let the experts present their suspects. So the last one I think we did was maybe Rodelli and Hawley with Chelcavale, the rich European car importer. But I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Red Cloud. I don't really like any of the suspects. I do have my own suspect I've never gone public with. But we'll be getting to it. We're going to revisit KQ on the 11th for the Paul Stein anniversary. And then I'll have 4 more shows coming up next week. It won't all be suspect stuff, but, there'll be suspects in there. We usually always bring them up in the discussion. They're just never much to say. Oh, well, so if you're continuing with the Richard Hoffman thing, dude, I handled this for you last week. There's absolutely no, all right. Full stop on the Beetlejuice 2 review. There's absolutely no way it could be Richard Hoffman. If you want me to end this in 3 seconds for you, when dude is at Blue Rock Springs, he rides in the ambulance with Darlene Ferrin to the hospital. Therefore, there's absolutely no way Richard Hoffman could make the Blue Rock Springs phone call. So if you're a one killer theory person, like most of us reasonable Zodiac people are, how does he go from shooting the victims to going to the police station to making the phone call? There's no way Richard Hoffman can do that. Also, don't forget, Mike Mageau saw the suspect at Blue Rock Springs. He had a flashlight in his face, but you don't think that he's going to recognize the profile of the dude that just shot him through the car window at the hospital to the cop that's interviewing him? Like, hey, you kind of look like the guy that just shot me 45 minutes ago. You know what I mean? That never comes up. So I don't know. I mean, there's just... I'll put up a short dealing with Gary Francis Post and the DNA, and Kenneth Maines just challenged Jay Foy to provide his Jay Foy is the guy who accused his grandfather, Richard Hoffman, of being the Zodiac. Kenneth Maines just challenged him to provide his DNA sample. Now, if that DNA sample also negates the Sherry Jo Bates killer, just like they did to Gary Francis Post, that means neither of those guys killed Sherry Jo Bates. That's only if you think Sherry is a Zodiac, victim. All right. Anyway, so back to what we were saying about Beetlejuice 2. So one of the best things that he did in the film. So Rory invites all these social media influencers and a Netflix executive to the wedding. So right before the ceremony starts, Beetlejuice gets them all sucked into their phones by their face. Absolutely, that was one of the best gags in the movie, guys. You know that one. Even if you didn't like it, that was great. He handled them perfectly, and that's exactly what they deserved, guys, and you know that.
I'm not arguing with that.
Yeah, that's 100% right. Like the movie or hate it, Beetlejuice, villain or good guy, he's in the right when he did that, and that's all we can say about it. But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of it, guys. It's kind of lackluster, until Dolores shows up with her big, I'm finally going to catch my ex-husband moment. And, you got to think about it. Beetlejuice killed her because she poisoned him to try to take his soul when he married her. He didn't really know she was a villain at the time. It was cool that we got his origin as a grave robber. It's essentially, who is it that tells him that his, I think it was Lydia that tells him his contract is null and void. No, it's a different character, right? It's Astrid or
no. Oh yeah, it is Astrid, yes, because there's that scene before another horrendous kind of songy dance moment happens, which had me vomiting on the spot. Yeah. I know I've just spoiled that for everyone. Trust me, I'm doing you a favor.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you like, I think a lot of it is, the younger, Jenna Ortega fans who are significantly younger than Gaz and I. Again, as I said, I'm nothing against the Addams Family. I do like the old movies and stuff. I've never even seen Wednesday, so good or bad, I can't tell you.
It's not the worst in the world. It's all right. They make such a thing of a big dance sequence in it, and it's just okay. Again, it's shot well. The look of the characters and everything is good. Yep. It's just not that great. It's not the worst ever. It's just okay.
Yeah, agreed. So, and again, like how Wolf Jackson is in suspended animation, the whole thing, I think his character could have interacted more with them if Beetlejuice didn't just freeze him, So Dolores shows up at the end. It's essentially the same ending as what happens to Beetlejuice in Beetlejuice 1, which I like the way they use the sandworms in that way, but of course they could have used them more, because that when the sandworm ate Beetlejuice at the end of 1, he didn't die, obviously, because he's in Beetlejuice. So it's like when the sandworm comes and jumps through the house and eats one of those characters, like, does Beetlejuice die? Does he not die? Obviously, they never explain that, so you assume that Dolores is not going to die either. So if they're going to try to do Beetlejuice 3, is it going to be more of the same? We really don't know. So we'll kind of leave it on that. I don't think it's as good as 1. I mean, obviously, it has a lower rating than 1 does on IMDb. Just to check that. Yeah, IMDb. So Beetlejuice 1 has a 7.5 on IMDb. I gave it an 8. And then this one is down to a 7 out of 50,000 ratings. We'll go straight into ratings. I'll just give mine right now. So it has a 7 total. I gave it a 7. Probably out of 6.5, 7. Like I said, the major problems are pacing because directing is good, editing is good, CGI, it's definitely more so overdone than the first one, but not terrible. Danny Elfman soundtrack, great. Beetlejuice, great. Defoe, great. Again, DeVito's cameo, arguably the highlight of the film. Very short scene. So I think DeVito and Defoe, just as Gaz said, like what Winona's performance is a little bit flat for what you'd expect from her playing Lydia Deetz. Her big icon. It's just like that, like confused look on her face and the way she like delivers some of the dialogue. It's just like she's not really acting. It's kind of like Winona Ryder playing Winona Ryder. You know what I mean? And the whole thing about her character is like she's this younger teenager friends with the ghosts in the first one. That element is totally lost now that she's in her 50s or 60s or whatever it is. And Jenna Ortega just doesn't have the star power that Winona had back in 1. So that's
definitely not. They do kind of try to play on that kind of, right, she's going to marry Beetlejuice, the kind of hint that they could do a third one. Hopefully not, but that's me.
Unless it's about Beetlejuice finally.
Yeah, that could be interesting. That could get me to be a little more interested.
Yeah, that's not even Beetlejuice 3. That's a Beetlejuice prequel that can happen anytime in the timeline, so it doesn't need to be canon,
I'm with you. I'll break my written down again, and what I always do when it's a film I don't like, into kind of 2, the business and my personal. So business side, Michael Keaton, yes, is really great as Beetlejuice. Willem Dafoe, next best performance, absolutely stands out. I do like his character. It's amusing. Cameo by Danny DeVito is great. And then the guy who kind of plays a spiritual sequel to, was it Otto?
Yeah, Rory. Justin Theroux plays Rory.
Yeah, he's good. Those are the most standout characters and the most memorable. If you are a fan of the first one, you probably won't think it's as good, but you will still have a vested interest with it. If you are a walking tower of misery like me that thinks this absolutely sucks, you'll find it a bore and just think it's more weird, arty-farty goth stuff. And it's not, it's shot well. It's not the worst. It's nowhere near as bad as The Crow 2024.
Nothing is that bad. The Crow made Expendables 4 look like The Godfather 2.
It is cluttered. It is chaotic. It's not, the layering isn't very strong. There is some notable false plot elements. Not enough exploration on some areas that Ross outlined that could have been done, would have made it more interesting. So from the filmmaking aspect, I would give it like a 6 or 7. My personal opinion, I would give it a 3. I think it's crud, but each to their own. You may enjoy it more than me.
I think it's just a lot of the reasons, as we said, are pacing. Like what's killing the Gazes and even probably Pat, because he's probably not going to watch this one, I would assume, because he didn't even like 1. Is
he's worse
when you're
me.
like, hey, I want to see Beetlejuice, and he doesn't show up until the middle of the second half. And then even then, he's cameoing in and out, and Dolores is a cameo in and out, and Wolf Jackson is cameo in and out. It doesn't really, and then it's following Astrid, and like I said, I think it was the wrong call to make this movie about the Deetz family, especially to focus so much on that Charles arc, because you're focusing on this headless character that's not even in the movie, And then we didn't even say what happened to Delia. I thought that was pretty corny. But as far as her being obnoxious, oh my God, I don't know if she was more obnoxious or less obnoxious in the first film, but her crappy modern art projects and just brutal. Like, and does Catherine O'Hara does an excellent job? Yeah, she does an excellent job at being annoying, but brutal. But yeah, Justin Theroux as like the woke new age, like you know what I mean, kind of uncle dad guy, absolutely hilarious. Are you asking about Gladiator 1?
The first one, is a classic.
Gladiator 1 is epic.
Awesome film. The second one, as I said, which drops in November, we're a little on the fence about it. But if you all want us to cover it, then we will do. But if it's going to be another Crow 2024, we will roast it. Because
it might be a roast. Oh, the Russell Crowe one is, dude, if you've never seen Gladiator, you need to go watch this movie right now. Gladiator is awesome. Gladiator's insane. Me and Gaz are massive Spartacus fanboys. We're massive Gladiator 1 fanboys. So if you want it on the PXF classics list, we can get Gladiator to you guys. Probably what we're going to do is review Gladiator 1 when Gladiator Pooh comes out, because me and Gaz are pretty worried about, even though we like Denzel, like Pedro Pascal, few good actors in the movie, but the trailer looks strange. I'm not going to lie to you, other than the combat sequences, which if you've literally seen 1 minute of Roman history, we all already know that stuff.
Are you with me on this then, Ross? You know how people thought the soundtrack was so appropriate for the thriller. Do you think to really sell it, they should have like a really sensitive moment and have a grindcore track just to emphasize the drama and the intensity? Some quiet moment, and you've got something that goes with it so well.
Oh, you're talking about the Kanye. Yeah. When freaking Maximus's son is praying at his tomb and trying to, you know what I mean? Invoke the spirit of his father, play some like Slayer, you know what I mean? Because clearly, who's ever in charge of the soundtrack to Gladiator has no idea what they're doing. And we love Ridley Scott. Okay, we absolutely love the guy, but for him to go out and say, wow, the Gladiator 2 trailer got absolutely roasted. Hey, I'm thinking about making Gladiator 3. Yeah. And the only reason people like Alien Romulus is because you didn't direct it, Ridley. It says a lot. Now, go ahead, guys.
What I'm curious about, maybe, I don't know if anyone has seen this in the chat. Please drop your comments if you have, and we could possibly add this to the list. There is a series on Amazon Prime starring Anthony Hopkins called For Those Who Are About to Die, and that is about gladiators on the Colosseum. So, kind of another Spartacus-esque series. I've heard actually good things about it, so that's something we could look at if you all want us to do. But I am with Ross. We are worried about Gladiator 2 and the fact that they're announcing Gladiator 3 already, as Ross has just said. It's
they're not really announcing it though. That's just Ridley being like, I think it's a really good idea, because he knows how big the fan base of 1 is, but he doesn't understand that it's going to get cut in half when he drops 2, and it's absolutely buns. Now Beetlejuice did gross over 329 million at the box office, so shout out to that. I always like to see Keaton do good, and Burton as well. I don't love everything Burton does, but I like a lot of his original stuff, much like Scott, same type of deal. Although Burton arguably has more credibility in the current climate. What else was I going to say about that? I actually like Keaton's performance as Bruce Wayne in the Flash movie. The Flash movie is not a great movie, but if you were to cut that movie apart and just use the Batman parts, it would have been literally incredible. So, shout out to Keaton reprising all his original roles. What's Clint Eastwood doing? Well, let's check out Clint Eastwood's age, because I think I can answer that for you. Clint Eastwood age?
Well,
man is 94 years old, so to expect like Dirty Harry or vigilante level westerns from him is probably not realistic for a 94-year-old, but he was directing.
Yeah, no, it done decent. There's the movie.
Man,
Was it Babe? The one about the female boxer? Was it
$1 Million Baby?
Yeah, that was supposed to be good. I've never actually seen
that. Yeah, I haven't seen it either. He directed that. Clint is the man. So we do have some Clint coming up for you guys in December. We're going to be doing Dirty Harry. We're going to give you the whole Zodiac connection. So I'm assuming you're asking about that, Cloud, because you're asking about Dirty Harry being or Scorpio being based on Zodiac, which is a fact. But yeah, I don't know. So that Ridley Scott comment, Gaz, that's a lot like James Cameron's recent comment about Fart Fate. Dark Fate was a serious sequel. That he just went and told us all that Dark Fate was a serious sequel to Terminator Judgment Day. Dark Fate's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. It's right, and I'm a Terminator fan. Boy, understand that T2 Judgment Day is in my top 5 PXFs. What's up, Summer? T2 is in my top 5 PXF classics of all time. Maybe my number 1 sci-fi of all time, right, with Blade Runner. And Fart Fate is so bad. It made Expendables 4 look like Full Metal Jacket. Dark Fate made friggin' The Crow 2024 look like friggin' Enter the Dragon. You know what I mean? Like, so for that dude to go out there and make that comment, dude, it's just like Ridley Scott being like, Gladiator 3, anyone? It's like, dude, your Gladiator 2 trailer got roasted.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that's mostly what we have on Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Yeah, I love Clint Eastwood. We got him coming up. So we do have a bunch of you guys' recommendations coming up. Cloud, we're going to get your stuff in the horror list next month for Zodtober. And then we have, as Gaz said, we have some Carpenter, some Grindhouse stuff coming up in November. Pixie, we have some of your stuff coming up in November. We have Toxic Avenger OG coming up in November. Obviously, looks like we're never going to get that Toxic Avenger remake, so it is what it is. We'll just we'll crash out with OG, and then we have Dirty Harry coming up with some Clint Eastwood. So all of that's going to lead us up down end of the year. Next year, we'll be doing the spaghetti westerns, the Clint Eastwood stuff, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly trilogy. How does that relate to Yokimbo and Sanjuro, the Kurosawas? We're definitely going to get some Kurosawas in the mix for Gaz. Those will be the cross streams between PXF and Mosh Shinobi. Things like the Hidden Fortress Kurosawa versus George Lucas, A New Hope retrospective. There's a lot of Kurosawa influence, probably more than you guys know. And if you're only thinking of the spaghetti westerns, it actually goes quite a bit beyond that into sci-fi. Han Solo being a gunslinger that's based on westerns. John Carpenter's Snake Plissken being a gunslinger that's based on westerns. So probably a lot more western influence in sci-fi than what you guys know of. Vin Diesel, I got this for you. He is making Riddick 3 Furia. Riddick is a PXF classic. We will be covering Riddick 3 Furia here. I think he's shooting it now, if I'm not mistaken. He's doing some Fast and Furious. You guys have seen our.
Yeah, that'll never end.
It's no Riddick. Yeah. He'll be doing that till he's 90, like Deadpool says about Hugh Jackman. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's about all we got. Any final things before we go? Damn, guys, I think I did have one more update I wanted to say, but I'm kind of it's kind of slipped my mind. But any final questions before we go, guys, and we'll bang out your questions. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'll give me a couple of updates and other things as well. Just remembered the Nosferatu trailer was on the latest Hellboy movie, which I checked. Don't watch Hellboy, the Crud Man. It's terrible. Anyway, the Nosferatu trailer did look interesting. William Dafoe's going to be in that. Myself and Ross, the same. Myself and Ross are looking at other martial arts movies, action movies that we can cross stream as well. There's so much going on behind the scenes. I say,
like we said, Twilight of the Warriors. We're working on it. We just haven't pulled it together. The Killer's Game came out. I don't really know. I like Batista. I like Atkins. So there's a couple new Atkins movies. I remember what I was going to cover. G.I. Joe: Wrath of Cobra out now on Steam. Go!
We're gonna get that on, man.
It's pretty sick. Looking to get Gaz on there as soon as we test the remote play. And then, Gaz does his gaming streams on YouTube. I do mine on Twitch, twitch.tv/PlanetXGames. Make sure you go follow me if you have Twitch. I haven't been very active, but the streams are coming back. Planet X Games. If you want to favorite that or pin that for me, Pixie, if you're still in there. Maybe I can do it myself, or at least it just shows it here when I do it. So follow me on Twitch. We're going to get G.I. Joe. It's a little buggy. Yesterday was the first day of the game. But for the Mosh Shinobi fans, the Ninja fans, Snake Eyes is a character. Storm Shadow is a villain. You're going to get your ninja fix. Duke, there's a couple unlockable characters. If you're old school G.I. Joe head, I don't know about Monster Squad. What are you asking me? Are you asking me about as far as I know, he was a real vampire. I believe in vampires. Yeah, no, we're pumped about Nosferatu. It looks sick. Of course, Willem Dafoe, as Gaz said. Of course, our boy Bill Skarsgård, who's actually really good when he's not in a Crow remake movie. Boy Kills World, sick.
Yeah, I'm going to put this out there now, Red. This is what I'm saying when I say every week, if you want us to go on ahead, look at some cases in history, alternative history as well, and that what you just said about was he a real vampire, that's exactly the kind of thing we could look at.
Yep.
Before we came on YouTube years ago, myself and Ross did a show where we interviewed this guy who, now he didn't believe in them, but he investigated the paranormal, investigated vampires, all sorts of stuff, and that guy was mad humble, and man, I think he stayed and chatted with us for like 2 or 3 hours. Awesome show. So that's exactly the kind of thing that if there's something you think, oh man, this is an interesting case in history, we could look at, because obviously Ross is a true crime expert on here. All I can say on that area is, yeah, good job, because I know nothing on that. But yeah, just keep those recommendations coming. We're always looking at things that we can bring to the channels and do for you guys.
Yeah, we're into cryptids. We do have the paranormal episode we did last October with Nicole, who is a paranormal expert here.
Yeah, that was really good.
She's an expert on the Queen Mary, published author, multiple books. I think she was the founder of the San Diego Paranormal Society or something of that nature. So yeah, we've done that topic before, and then Gaz and I are big into paranormal and cryptids, and all of the above. Vampires haven't gone in on it. Of course, with Nosferatu, there is the OG films as well. So if you guys want us to go retro, of course, there's this. I want to ask. I know Matt went, I think the other night. Megalopolis. It's the new Coppola movie. I saw some of the San Francisco Chronicle coverage of it, and those critics absolutely roasted it.
Really?
It's just an unfocused piece of crap. I think it was like $100 million movie that Coppola put up to make himself. I mean, if anybody has the money, it's Francis Ford Coppola, right? Obviously, the guy.
Concept sounds interesting, like modern day Roman Empire.
I'm interested in it though. It's got some really good actors in it. Like if we pull up, let us know. Max Schreck played the original Count Orlok. Yeah, no, super. I know. Slipknot knows his horror. He knows his horror really good. And then of course our boy Lauren knows his horror as well. I want to just because I know Adam Driver I think plays the lead, but and then the dude from Breaking Bad, who's the Sith, Giancarlo Esposito, the Sith from Mandalorian. He's in it. Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf, John Voight, Lawrence Fishburne, ensemble cast, Jason Schwartzman, tons of people. So I'm a Coppola fan. I'm interested to see how that goes. Apparently he wrote it as well. Apparently it's 2 hours, 18 minutes. But yeah, as far as new stuff, it's really just Killer's Game, Megalopolis, and Joker 2, Folly Ado, as Gaz said. Yeah, I saw that one of the Bigfoot, that train that was going by, and it was kind of like that tan-colored Bigfoot. Unfortunately, I think it was on TMZ, which is kind of meh. But it looked very realistic. I'm a Sasquatch guy. I'm a squatcher. I've been squatching all over the world, Norway, you name it. I think he's out there. As Bill Burr said, he's just there's just one. He's just a badass with a leather jacket. You know what I mean? Smoking camels. You know what I mean? There's only one. No, I love Bigfoot. Bigfoot is the shit. But yeah, like Gaz said, we're always open to ideas. Bigfoot, vampires, cryptids. We'll have it all coming to you guys if that's what you want. Of course, ufology, and me and Gaz are big into that too. Think that's basically everything. So we'll have the Wrath of Cobra streams coming towards you. Maybe some dual streams onto Gaz's Mouse Shinobi. Follow Gaz over at Mouse Shinobi. Like I said, looking like a dual feature next Saturday. I think we're gonna have to change the time, Gaz, because I think I just booked the interview for the guys for 2 p.m. But if you want me to jump on early with you, me and you could just come on early. I mean, I know Gaz is way later than me. If you haven't noticed from his accent, he's obviously in England, which is quite a time zone away from me. So, and that's later time for people who don't know what a clock is. But I think me and Gaz will go early. We'll do, unless anything comes up and we got to change it to Sunday or whatever, we'll do me and Gaz, The Thing, in-depth, deep dive retrospective, and as well as The Thing Expanded. And then I'll be on with a couple of my boys doing Zodiac interview files. I think last one was 13, so I think this will be 14, doing that. So tune in next week, Red. I'll have the Zodiac content back on Sunday. Then another show for the Paul Stein anniversary. I mean, I'll give you guys a brief. So I'm not going to announce all the guests, but I'll give you guys a brief synopsis of what we're looking at. Followed by Drewzer's return with another special guest, and that will be right before the Zodiac documentary drops on Netflix, which I'm expecting to be super subpar mid. And then my boy Jerome, if he's able, he's coming from, he was actually in the chat earlier, French Wrecking Crew. Check me out on the Zodiac panels over on his channel, the 26th. And his theory is obviously Don Chaney. It's kind of a supplement theory to Drew Beeson's, which is Don Chaney and Sandy Panzarella, kind of a duo, much like Beeson's is Don Chaney and Arthur Lee Allen. So anyway, that does Zodiac, that does horror, that does Zodtober, and everything that me and Gaz got coming up. But like we said, we'll be working in some of the fan recos next month. Obviously starting off with The Thing, some PXF classics. We're going to try to lean towards horror as much as we can, at least for October. And send the link. Me and Gaz are into this.
Yeah, I think they're going to want us to get into the cryptids just from the comments we're seeing already. So I think
we can make it happen.
Be a feature we're going to have to look at.
Yeah, we can make it happen. I'll have to brush up on my. Is he a herbivore? I mean, I got to say he's always splashing around in the water looking for fish and things of that nature. So I got to say no, but that's an interesting. It's an interesting debate. It's an interesting debate, I don't know. Yeah. We'd have to get an expert on to really get an answer, because Gaz and I are kind of lower level, just Bigfoot fanboys, but I love the guy. All right, y'all. Well, that's Beetlejuice. I mean, you keep saying this, Red Cloud, but then you just spam RH in the chat. So, all right. Before we go, let's just give Red Cloud what he wants. Red Cloud, who do you think is the Zodiac? Who's your top suspect? Start there. Who's even reasonable, viable suspects? If you can give us that, then we have a starting point. Until then you're just like asking me to be Robert Graysmith and come on Netflix and be like, well, I know Arthur Lee Allen doesn't match the forensics or the fingerprints or the handwriting or the DNA, but it's definitely him. Like we need a little bit more than that. And that's the problem with somebody, Robert Graysmith. He writes a best-selling NY Times bestseller, and then they make an entire movie based off of that, off of a suspect that really has no bearing, unless, of course, you believe, Drew Beeson's theory, which I would advise you to check out Sighting In on the Zodiac, or go subscribe to Drew Beeson and Missing Persons channel and go listen to his Zodcast, see what he says, because it's got to have, was there any DNA? 1978 letter has a sample from the front of the stamp, but there's a lot of problems with it. And then Tom Voight comes back and tells us that the DNA sample was from a person who couldn't be the Zodiac, which means a non-Caucasian or a non-male. Obviously, we assume the Zodiac is a male. So the DNA rabbit hole. I mean, have you watched the Zodiac shows, Red Cloud? I'd advise you to go to the playlists and then start with my Zodiac interview series. The person who talks the most about that is Mike Rodelli, author of In the Shadow of Mount Diablo. You know what I mean? He talks about it quite a bit. He's also got videos on his channel. All right, guys. Well, anyway, you'll have your chance to ask me all the Zodiac questions you want next week, Red Cloud. Just tune in with me and the boys when we do the interview. So I think that does it for Beetlejuice. Shout out to Bigfoot. Shout out to Red Cloud. Shout out to Slipknot. Shout out to Pixie, Mark, everybody who came through. Gaz, go subscribe to Moss Shinobi. Hoping to bring you guys some Wrath of Cobra on Twitch soon. Shout out to G.I. Joe. I love the universe. Too bad we couldn't get a decent movie.
Yeah, I know, man. I know it blows. Shout out to you all. Thank you for coming through and supporting us always. Fire Pixie, please stay safe and let us know that you were doing okay as well. Just leave a comment or message on either of the channels on the community chat. Just let us know that you're safe and you're doing all right. We shall see you all next week. Please sub to both channels. Lots and lots of stuff is coming. Zodiac, other PXF classics, everything. Just stay up, y'all. And peace for now.
As we said, 4 Zodiac interviews in Zodtober, so you guys will have all the time in the world to ask me questions in the lives, and we'll talk suspects if that's what you want to do. And then, we're going to get some of your recos in there, Cloud. We're going to get some of Slipknot's recos. I know you guys have all put up some horrors, and then obviously some of Pixie stuff in November. So keep the recos coming, either in the live chat in the comments below. I mean, you could just start with the first one. The first one I think is Drew Beeson. And then there's basically 13 episodes after that. So that's the interviews. But if you haven't watched my main series, I would advise just starting with the main series, which are the non-canonicals, and then you'll kind of obvious where that's going to go. So that's basically it, y'all. Beetlejuice 2. Not as good as 1. Love Keaton, love Burton, but I mean, from what I've seen overall, kind of a mixed result on that. But like Slipknot said, when you make a sequel 36 years later, it's going to be tough to carry over that energy from the first one, unless of course you're Ridley Scott, because he'll make Gladiator movies forever, 4, 5, and 6. It's like he's going to turn it into a Star Wars trilogy. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, chill, but that's it. So go subscribe to Mosh Shinobi. Follow me on Twitch. Obviously you can click the membership below if you like the content, subscribe, like, sub if you haven't. That basically does it for us. Of course, the comic is on Amazon. Bro. Keep punching. Peace, Fire Pixie. Good luck with the hurricane, and I hope you get your power back. Like Gaz said, check in with us. I hope everything works out for you. So tune in next week. Zodtober, The Thing, John Carpenter, Kurt Russell, and I'm pumped for that one because I love The Thing. I know Gaz is a big fan of it too. So
definitely. Right, thanks for coming through again, y'all. We'll see you next time. Fire Pixie, please stay safe and let us know how you're doing, as we both said. And see you next time, y'all. Peace.
Peace out, guys. Have a good weekend. We'll check on this UFC stuff. I don't really care about this card, as I said. But in the meantime, join a membership. Of course, the Patreon. I've been doing The Most Dangerous Game series with my analysis of each one of the adaptations. I have a few more to do, a little bit behind, but I will continue to update it. So check out the Patreon as well. Also, you don't need to be a paid member on the Patreon. You can join as just a free member. And then like my last post had to be NSFW because the film that I posted contained like some nudity. So it wasn't something I was just going to post. I mean, I'll post like inflammatory clips on the community tab, but anything that's just like going to be like that, I'm not going to post it publicly. So you can join Patreon. You can be a free member. But ultimately, I am going to start, putting more things to just the full members, in the next couple of months. So anyway, that's all we got, guys. Like, sub, share. We're out. Beetlejuice challenge. Everybody came through. Slipknot, Red Cloud, Pixie, Mosh, Mark. Everybody came through. We're out. Thanks, guys. Good show.